Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the Court, my name is Eternal Morris, and I represent the Respondent, the State of Olympus. The Respondent respectfully requests that this Court affirm the decision of the trial court because Mr. Bronner's Fourth Amendment rights were not violated by the police obtaining his cell phone records. There was no search, and if this Court were to deem that a search did exist, the exigency exception applies to make this warrantless search objectively reasonable. Your Honors, in Katz v. United States, the Supreme Court defined a search as any governmental intrusion upon a person's objective and subjective expectation of privacy. The petitioner neither had an objective nor a subjective expectation of privacy in his cell phone location information or in the phone numbers he dialed on his cell phone. Page 4 of the record shows that on January 16, 2016, law enforcement agents obtained records for every time Mr. Bronner's cell phone was within 5 miles of 10 specific addresses and every phone number that he communicated with when his phone was within 10 miles of those same 10 addresses. On February 3, 2016, the agents obtained records for every phone number that Bronner communicated with during the 5 days leading up to the Super Bowl. And lastly, on February 7, 2016, the agents obtained records for every phone number that Bronner communicated with during the times of 12 p.m. through 10 p.m. and every one of those phone numbers' current location within 2 miles. Our case presents a technology argument and a cell phone argument. Your Honors, our case is most like Carpenter v. United States. In Carpenter, the court addresses historical cell site location information and how it applies to the third-party doctrine. However, Carpenter leaves open for discussion how real-time cell site location information applies to the third-party doctrine. Because a cell phone user voluntarily accepts and risks that his or her location information would be shared with the cell phone company as an important business purpose, the user of a cell phone does not retain any expectation of privacy in his or her cell phone location information. The argument against this voluntary sharing is seen in Carpenter. Carpenter states that what a person routinely does without consciously assenting to this sharing cannot be deemed to be voluntary. However, our case is unlike Carpenter in a respect that Mr. Bronner used a burner phone. As page 2, footnote 5 of the record states, consumers purchase burner phones to prevent law enforcement agents from tracking their locations. Thus, a burner phone user is more aware than the average customer that complying to a cell phones company policies and standards, such as the need to record cell site location information, are necessary to the phone's functioning. Your Honors, the technology argument extends into United States v. Jones and into Carpenter v. United States. These cases hold that attaching a GPS device to someone's private property and searching a person's historical cell site location information are searches. Though our case presents both elements of private property and cell site location information, our case also has two distinctions. One, the agents in our case never had to intrude on Bronner's private property. The cell site location information was gathered using Olympus cellular towers. The agents in this case neither manipulated nor attached anything to Bronner's physical phone to record cell site location information. Thus, the holding in Jones is unfitting in cases relating to cell phones because it is unnecessary to physically intrude on a person's private property to record cell site location information. 2. The agents in our case were notified in real time anytime Bronner's phone was within 5 miles of 10 specific addresses or 10 miles within 10 specific addresses. The breadth of this search is severely more limited than the one seen in Carpenter. The location information that the agents in our case obtained was only constituted a small portion of Bronner's movement throughout the day. Thus, Carpenter v. United States is unfitting in a case relating to the location of a burner phone and real-time cell site location information. The cell phone Moreover, Your Honors, the technology argument continues with Kylo v. United States. In Kylo, the court rules that the agents of that case violated Kylo's expectation of privacy because they searched inside his home. Any search inside someone's home without a warrant is presumptively unreasonable. However, our case is unlike Kylo in the respect that the agents never searched Bronner's home. The locations that they gathered were public places across the state of Olympus. Moreover, as in Kylo held, that if an agent used sense-enhancing technology to gather information that would have been otherwise unknown without being physically present at that scene, that would constitute a search. The information that the agents in our case gathered was information that any consumer with a working knowledge of the cell phone could gather. They collected phone numbers on his cell phone. Lastly, Your Honors, the cell phone argument ends with Riley v. California. In Riley, the court rules that because the digital content on a phone is so personal, when it is reasonable to do so, police should obtain a warrant. However, this case is unlike Riley because in our case, the agents did not search the digital data of a cell phone, such as the pictures, videos, or text message. They searched the physical location of that cell phone. The intimacy that a person carries in his cell site location information does not equal the intimacy a person carries in his digital data. To my second point, Your Honors, if this court were to deem that a search did exist, the exigency exception applies to make this warrantless search objectively reasonable. Exigency, as McZorley v. McNeely outlines, can happen in three situations. In hot pursuit of a fleeing suspect, because the suspects in this case were believed to be heading to Las Vegas and leaving the state, they can be considered fleeing suspects, thus this exigency situation applied. 2, to render emergency aid. Because human trafficking is an ongoing emergency is constantly happening, there is always a need to render emergency aid. As page 2, footnote 2 states, human trafficking, at any time 2.4 million people are caught in human trafficking situations. And third, the destruction of evidence. Because the suspects in this case were believed to be heading to Las Vegas and leaving the state, they would have inevitably taken with them any evidence relevant to the crime. Our case is also unlike Missouri v. McNeely, because in McNeely, the crime had already happened, at least to the police officer's perspective. In our case, the police still stood a slim chance of stopping the crime from ever occurring. Lastly, in Kentucky v. King, the court addresses the police-created exigency exception. This exception says, as long as the police acted within a constitutional manner, meaning they did not threaten to violate or actually violate the Constitution preceding the exigency, the police may create their own exigencies permissibly. In our case, the agents obtained warrants and only obtained Mr. Bronner's cell phone records after they've lawfully obtained warrants to show that Danoff was using burner phones and that Bronner may have been involved in the operation. Because evidence was believed to be in danger of destruction, the law enforcement agents were able to obtain a warrant. The petitioner may argue that because the agents in this case had time to secure a warrant, that they should have done so. However, also in Kentucky v. King, the court states that a police officer does not have to call a halt to a criminal investigation at the earliest time that probable cause arises if there is time to secure a warrant. Because human trafficking is an ongoing threat to individuals in the community, the need of law enforcement was so compelling to have agents in the case waive the warrant requirement. For the reasons stated above, The respondent respectfully requests that this court affirm the decision of the trial court. Thank you.